All right, good morning and good afternoon and possibly good evening to some viewers. Welcome to our talk today. Today we are talking about the pros and cons of change. And we want to just welcome you to this episode where we will talk a little bit about the pros and cons of change. And then Pete will bring us through an experience where we can just, take a moment to just kind of listen deeper, relax, close our eyes, and just kind of feel that experience. And then afterwards, we'll be able to answer any questions you have or any comments you can put in the chat about your experience going through that. So take it away, Pete.
Yeah, it's one where I was talking to a few of my clients earlier, and this was actually a really good conversation because I feel like it connects back to when we talked before about being ready for change, right? That whole graph we had where you could be on the fence, right? And it's one where I find a lot of people, and I would say I would put myself in this category. Sometimes we try to jump before we're ready, right? Before we address everything that can go right and everything that can go wrong. Typically we're like, oh no, this is what's going to go right. And we ignore what goes wrong, which is dangerous overall, right? And I think for a lot of us, New Year's resolutions would fall into that category, right? You're like, oh, have I ever done this? If you ever had a New Year's resolution where you were really going, oh man, maybe I'm going to start going to the gym every day, and you didn't think about the pros and cons, you maybe made it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? And then you kind of fall off. You have that bad day, life gets back in the way, and you kind of go back into your old routines. And that's what really jump started the conversation with a few of my clients, where they're like, I just go back into my old routines, you know? And that's where I was like, all right, I'm like, that's where maybe we haven't looked deep enough into the cons of the change, not just the pros. Um, the other part, which I love, and when we think of being hypnotist and hypnosis, it is our inner family, right? Whether it's our inner child, I look at our emotions as part of my family, right? Every emotion I have, whether it's anger, joy, sadness, frustration, excitement, nervousness, fear, these are all part of my family, right? My inner family. And I think a lot of us, we we typically go, man, I want to feel more joy, but then we don't really pay attention to fear on why they felt like they needed to be here, you know? And we have to be able to have that conversation with every part of ourselves, the good and the bad, right? And it's one where the exercise today will allow us to, one, build that self-awareness really by meeting our inner family, right? Listen to the good and the bad. That's going to be, I think, the biggest win of today, getting used to just hearing and listening. So when it comes to hypnosis, right, a lot of the times when we do these exercises, I have everyone take a deep breath, close their eyes, focus on our breathing. And that's another thing people always ask me, why do I start that way? Right? One, it's a great way to introduce trance, right, and relaxation. But more importantly, it's like the buildup to the exercise, right? The way I look at it is like, let's say we go to the gym and we want to get stronger muscles. You can't go in and hit the heavy weights right away. You got to do those lighter weights, right? You got to do that warm up before the exercise. And then you got to do a cool down after, right? Which is the end of slowly coming back to the reality around us, right? Because I don't know about you, but I get lost in my own thoughts, my own experiences during these. And sometimes I need that person to be like, hey, it's time to come back, right? It's time to open our eyes. And that's that cool down process where we're taking everything we just did and letting it kind of embody us So our lives are then different from that moment forward. So if we're going to start with the warm up, we're just going to get nice and comfy. We're going to take that nice deep breath in. And when you exhale, you can just keep your eyes closed. And just starting with those light weights, just notice your breathing. Just notice how it feels. How it feels when you breathe in and your chest fills up. Notice how it feels when you exhale and your chest goes back in. How maybe you notice that you're swaying just a little bit. Maybe you notice just heaviness in your eyes. Maybe you just notice something else. Could be the temperature, the texture. Could even be the sound of my voice and how soothing it's become. But just become aware of just little things that are going on around you. It could be even that one hand already feels heavier than the other hand. And maybe that brings a smile to your face. But for now, all I want you to do is to picture just a simple change. See, as you picture that change, just begin to become aware to notice what emotion comes up. See, maybe there's a little bit of excitement, but also some apprehension. Something that we go, oh man, I don't know. So you just take notice of what you notice. See, as we go through this, begin to welcome your inner family, the apprehension, the fear, the excitement, that I don't know if we can do this. I think we need to learn something. See, maybe when they all start talking to each other, you get the excitement going, oh, when we make this change, apprehension, all this is going to happen. And then apprehension talks back. Or the other emotions talk back. And you get that conversation starting to flow. Become aware of that, yes, even the fear and the apprehension. They're there to help. They're also good guys. See, maybe they have something, a need that hasn't been met yet. And you get to begin to understand what those needs are. Then you help those parts of you to find ways to meet them. You might come across a part of you that does not want to change, who will never be on board with those who do want to change. And you get to learn, you get to decide what can go wrong. If I hold on to this feeling right now, what can go right? What can go wrong though? And what can go right? And you get them talking back and forth, the pros and the cons. See, all in their own voice. You get to begin to hear all the perspectives regarding this change. And when you fill them with the compassion, the acceptance, the embrace, see, to understand their needs, to comfort them, to going, you're right, that con could happen. But if it does happen, we'll be prepared. And we'll do this if it does. And notice there's a much lower chance of risk of falling short in the long run. So I want you to take all the time you need just to listen to those voices more fully, just for a moment, to hear what they have to say, the good, the pros, the bad and cons, to create a plan for you that's unstoppable, as if it's in a relational flow with each other. To be prepared, to know what actions to take, to know when to pivot and to change. And when you listen to those voices where you know what to do next, just that first step in this simple change, you get to have that cool down. That's right. Let it sink all in. And when you're ready, you get to open your eyes and come on back, cultivating those positive emotions. Welcome back. You might be on mute.
Oh, I am on mute. Okay, well, we have a comment, but it's in a language that I don't understand. I think it's Albanian or something. So, if you're watching, I can't read that comment. I'm sorry. So, I just wanted to share my amazing experience, and anyone else who's watching, if you'd like to um, share or comment, through the comments or any questions. Um, so it was so interesting where I went when you said a change. Automatically it went to like ice cubes in a cup, and so like that was changed, like ice that will then melt. And so, and then when I invited all the family in, everyone was around, just noticing change. Like here's an example of change from ice, pure hard strong ice, to what happens to it in this like warmer weather and in this drink. And then there was one part of me, like one emotion that was outside the circle and didn't want to come in. And she was invited in, and I don't know her exact reasoning, but she was sort of like, I'm the one that doesn't change, like I'm the resistance. And it's like, well, but you're still welcome. And it's like she wanted to come, but she couldn't come because of who she is, like what her role, what her nature, what her emotion is. And so everyone was still kind of around the ice, just noticing the ice, investigating the ice, all of the features of how ice is and can be and changes, and the benefits, the pros and cons of ice melting in your drink on a warm day. And it was just, this kind of like investigative, like just watching and kind of like scientific experience. And then at one point, she um, just sort of, it happened. She just sort of like was able to come into the circle with the rest of the family, leaving her shell behind. And then, and like the resistance kind of ended. She was there because somehow that shell was um, enough of what needed to be there. I don't know. It was very kind of interesting and kind of hard to um, exactly explain, but it was good enough that she was able to come into the circle, and what was left was the part that needed to still stay and be there. And then the gift or experiment was, now that we've learned and investigated ice, this shell can do what ice does in a drink on a warm day. And so then it was allowed to kind of just do as ice does. And then it was outside the circle. And then at some point, it kind of chose to come in the middle of the circle around the rest of the family and melt as ice does. So I didn't make it up, it just came. And that was my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the unconscious mind working in its mysterious ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like I can really run with that, and I can use that, and I'll be so curious to see as my days progress that feeling of resistance. I've now kind of met this aspect with this family, and so it'll be really fun to use my own imagination and all these different tools
Yeah.
to kind of do that work. Um, my friend April says she tuned in and sounds wonderful. She tuned in just as you were bringing us out of this little guidance. But the cool thing is, April, is that these are recorded, and the goal is to um, give it to you as a gift so you can kind of go back and have the guidance, your own way, and then use that as a tool to be able to do it for yourself again and again, or work with us if that moves you. Cool. So we have about 5 more minutes to right on, April. Good. I love that you're loving it. We love it too. And we have a playlist on my YouTube channel where all of these are there, and I do my best to kind of put these different banners up that explain kind of what we're talking about when. I didn't get the timestamp for the guidance today, but we're working on that. So there's a lot of really great tools and gems in there. Think thanks to the great Pete, my mentor. So so yeah, today it's about pros and cons of change. And this is one experience, one way to sit with your internal family, with your emotions, allowing them with the allowance and the noticing and without expectation to see what might come, right? So I guess what I could ask you, Pete, is, I think for those that are tuned into their imagination and tuned into listening, something like this would be easy, listening to the recording again or doing it for themselves. What about for some people who imagination, they have a sense or feeling or experience that they don't have imagination or they don't know how? What would you suggest for them?
Yeah, and this is where I find imagination is unique to everyone. So a lot of us get stuck on imagination being a very visual thing, right? A lot of us go, and I put myself in this category as well. Like I don't see things when I imagine things. There's no picture in my mind. There's no, real visual representation of what I'm feeling. But that's me, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there like me who are like that. For us, it's really about the feelings themselves that are most important. You know, it's one where like with a lot of my clients, where like just picture your refrigerator at home, right? You know if it's black, white, stainless steel. If it's from the 80s, it could be pea olive green, right? If the freezer's on the top, the bottom has the double doors. When you open up the refrigerator, there's the milk, right? So for me, I'm physically doing these motions. I don't see my refrigerator, but I know I have a feeling my milk's on the lower left-hand side, right? That is my imagination working the exact way it's supposed to, right? Some people, it's super clear as day. Their refrigerator, boof, right there in front of them, no matter where they are. But for a lot of us, it's just that knowing feeling. Like I know this is how I open my refrigerator. I know when I reach for the milk, I reach down to the and to the left, right? That's working. That is your imagination working. That's right for you. But again, like I think a lot of it gets stuck on, well, this guru said it has to be visual. I have to see this picture. Well, no, sometimes the picture is just a feeling. Sometimes it's a sound, right? Sometimes it's just a different picture altogether where you're like, oh man, right? Like today we're talking about our inner family. Love might actually be a heart, right? Love might be a sound of, someone saying, I love you. Love could be something even different altogether. It could be like a physical vibration in your body in some way. They're all right as long as it's right for you.
And so with that in mind, I think, a really important practice for people too is to practice compassion versus judgment,
Mm-hmm.
or something else versus judgment. I mean, compassion is a very common one spoken about and really known to be a good tool, but just something different than judging it, or trying to will it to be something else. And so I just wanted to suggest that, just the sensations that, you first brought us to, talking about, like, the hypnosis, the beginning before the big workout, and then the cool down, is just noticing the air on my skin right now, or the hair from my ponytail on my shoulder, or the weight of my feet on the ground. These are things to just, like, that are very on the ground and visceral, that you can feel, that don't have to do with um, imagination disconnected from your body. It's the feeling and experience that you're mentioning, with, like, opening the door or anything that is activating imagination. It just might not be what you think imagination. I have to be creative, or I have to visualize this thing that I can't see. But that's what I'm hearing from you, is that there's these ways that are activating imagination by the noticing.
Yeah.
So you're not going,
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna feel hot air on my skin. You're going, I'm noticing my skin.
yeah, right. And
Right.
if you think about imagination, I view it as a muscle. When we're kids, we use it a lot, like a lot. But then comes a point, and I really don't know what age it is, we stop, right? And because imagination is a muscle, when we don't use it, it does become weaker, right? And so when we haven't used it, let's say in 20 years, when we go and use it, we're expecting it to be super strong, but it's not. And we have to be okay with that. We have to be okay with maybe the feeling of, let's say, love is very weak. It's very quiet. It's like background noise in our mind, so soft and subtle. Maybe we don't even feel it at all the first time, but it's a muscle. And so what you do is you just go in and you practice and you practice and you practice. It will get louder. It will become easier. It will become uh, stronger in so many ways. And so I understand in the beginning, this is where we're all at different levels, right? Someone who's been doing it for 10 years could probably just close their eyes, bam, right there. Someone who's new, spend more time on the warm up, not the workout, right? And then slowly swap them. So you are doing shorter warm ups, longer workouts, but we're all at different levels. So don't go into going, well, so and so can do it like this. Cool, great for them. If you're not there, you're not there, and that's okay. You know, but keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to put it. So before we end, I just wanted to, we have one other comment, and they just said, I love the concept of listening to all emotions of inner family. That's so important. It's like unmet needs. And that's another very important factor. Relational flow. And she said, that's it. It's essential. Embrace hearing compassion, love, acceptance. So,
Yeah. Every emotion can bring us gifts.
yeah.
Every emotion.
And I think that's so beautiful and so important for us to know, and to really, like, actualize. Don't push pain or suffering out the window, all, like, before you offer them a seat at the table to listen. Like, there might be a change that happens.
Yeah.
There might be a certain point where you go, you know what, this certain energy is not, like, has to go outside, and when you're ready, to, be in like flow with the family here. We want you here. But until then, like, just go outside and get your yayas out, and then of course at some point you might have to kick something out, but it seems important to give a moment to listen, right? Because like you said, every emotion has a gift, and I agree, and I've experienced things like that too where I agree. So great. Well, thank you everyone for listening today who joined in, and for anyone who's going to listen to the recording later. As always, if there's anything you'd like to hear us talk about in future episodes, let us know. And if you'd like to be with us live, let us know. If you're a practitioner, um, of decades or a few months, it'd be great to have you on and talk about your experiences and have a nice conversation. And, as always, with all of these things, like, comment, subscribe. That would be really great for us. And really share this message with somebody that this could help. You can share the whole playlist on YouTube. You can share just one of these episodes, even a timestamp that you really liked and enjoyed at what part. And, we're here to answer any questions, and if even to you can do work with us if you'd like. So reach out on all the social media platforms, and thank you so much. And Pete, any last words for today for our viewers?
Yeah, it's one that came just to my mind now. We're really doing this for everyone listening and watching, right? And for us to make it the most enjoyable and most, I say, productive, right? We need your feedback, right? We need what would mean something to you, because I've learned over the years, don't think that just because you go, oh man, this would really help me, probably not anyone else, right? But the truth is, if you have that question or feeling, there's probably millions of people who have that same question and feeling. And it can be really good for us. That way we can help more people at the same time. So yeah, like feedback, questions, all of that is super important. I love what I do, and I'll help and answer any question that ever comes our way, um, because it just makes me a better person. It makes everyone a better person. We all get to grow to be healthier, happier, richer in all areas of our lives. So don't be shy. Always ask.
Okay, that's so great. Absolutely. Don't be shy. Just ask. We are here to answer your questions or to find the answer, because, we all have what we know to the best of our ability, but we have so many contacts for other people, and there's just endless, amazing information out there. And we'll share it with you. Anything we can come up with. So thank you, everyone. And until next week, have a great week. And ciao.
Bye.